Hello, it's Veronica, the Heart Dietitian. The American Heart Association's just released their 2026 nutrition guidelines, which was really exciting, and I wanted to share a summary of what you need to know about these new guidelines. The last time these guidelines were updated was 2021, so that's 5 years. So let's dive in and see what's new. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Veronica, a registered dietitian specializing in heart disease. I offer free nutrition information for those who are trying to prevent heart disease or those who are living with heart disease on my website, theheartdietitian.com. It has recipes as well as evidence-based information. And if you ever have questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to write a blog post about it. Now back to those American Heart Association guidelines. What's changed? Well, the big takeaways is that they have these 9 recommendations that I'll go over with you today in this video. They summarized it really nicely in this great graphic here, but I'll go through each one individually. In summary, though, the biggest takeaways is that they focused on reducing ultra-processed foods. So this is in line with the new food guide from the United States, which are promoting eating real foods and reducing ultra-processed foods. So this is a big new takeaway, which I'll go into in more detail. There is a stronger push towards eating more protein from plants. We know this has been beneficial, but in this document, it highlights how beneficial it actually is, which is actually different from the United States dietary guidelines. One of the recommendations about alcohol is a lot more cautious than it has been in the past. And instead of restricting saturated fats, which was what was recommended in the 2021 guidelines, there's more emphasis on replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats. So we'll talk about that in more detail. Another difference than what's found in the United States food guide. Okay, let's jump into recommendation number 1. So recommendation number 1 is all about achieving a healthy body weight, but in the document itself, it actually encourages individuals to stay away from fad diets, and the references they use is related to ketogenic diets. In the document itself, it says some popular weight loss diets may result in short-term benefits, but have uncertain long-term cardiovascular impact and can worsen cardiovascular risk factors. And that's because a lot of fad diets, when they are studied, they're studied on a short-term basis, and we don't know what's actually happening long-term. And something like the ketogenic diet, which is a high-fat diet, is likely going to be high in saturated fat, and from past research, we know that eating too much saturated fat can actually increase our LDL cholesterol levels, which is a risk factor for heart disease. The other part of this healthy body weight equation is not just watching how much energy you're consuming, but are you meeting physical activity guidelines? How much energy are you expending? So I think that's an important takeaway. These are the nutrition guidelines, but we're still emphasizing the importance of physical activity, the importance of getting at least the minimum 150 minutes of aerobic exercise every week, and then 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training. Increasing your muscle mass through resistance training will increase your metabolism, which will also help this energy equation. So recommendation number 2 is all about eating more fruits and vegetables. I know it's boring recommendation. You know this information, but the nice thing about these guidelines is that they're suggesting that you can not only consume fresh fruits and vegetables, but canned and frozen are also okay. We know grocery prices are rising, so canned and frozen are more affordable. When you're looking for canned and frozen options, just make sure that there's no sugar added and no salt added. So you're getting all of the natural occurring nutrients in these vegetables without any additives. I think a lot of individuals are aware that fruits and vegetables are very healthy for us. In North America, we are not eating the recommended amount of 7 to 10 a day. So this could be a really good recommendation for you to start to adopt. What I would recommend is look at your day yesterday. How many fruits and vegetables did you have? And then today, just add 1 more serving until you reach the 7 to 10 servings in a day. There's no need to go from 0 to 100, but that steady increase of small changes will really help you reach the recommended guidelines, which ultimately helps you manage heart disease. Recommendation number 3 is choosing more whole grains. another recommendation that I'm sure you are well aware of. However, this one promotes the idea that low carbohydrate diets are not necessarily heart healthy. Okay, whole grains are very, very important for our heart health. When we're looking at eating whole grains, they're including the whole grain kernel, which is the endosperm, the outside bran, and the germ. The germ has a lot of antioxidants and nutrients in it that's often extracted from products that are whole wheat or refined grains. When I'm working with clients, they are often asking, should they go on a low carbohydrate diet? But instead, what I encourage you to do is look to see if you're eating whole grains. It's about the quality of the grains and, of course, the amount. But first, let's change the quality and get all of the nutrition, the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, and antioxidants that we can from these whole grains. So again, think to your day yesterday. What kind of grains did you have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack? Is there something that you can switch from a refined grain to a whole grain like barley, oats, or even whole grain bread? Eating these whole grains offer the nutrition, but they've also been shown to help improve our gut bacteria. It helps to reduce inflammation. It can help us achieve regular bowel movements and, of course, improve cardiovascular risk factors. So ask yourself, are you eating enough whole grains? And if not, maybe that's the area that you want to work towards to try to meet these new AHA guidelines. Recommendation number 4 is all about protein. And this may be surprising because in the recommendation, they actually state the relationship between protein quantity and cardiovascular health is uncertain. So what does that mean? We don't have enough information to determine how much protein we need to help our cardiovascular health. What these recommendations do focus on is the quality of the protein. So look at what type of protein you're actually consuming and see if you meet these recommendations. So what are they suggesting? They're suggesting the protein quality is important, which means is the protein high in fiber and is the protein rich in unsaturated fats and low in saturated fats. What does that mean in terms of food? Well, it means are you prioritizing plant-based proteins? So that's beans and legumes as well as nuts and seeds. I talk all about nuts and seeds in more detail in one of my recent videos. And beans and legumes and I share a lot of recipes about beans and legumes on my website, so check those out if plant proteins are new to you. What else is recommended? Regularly consuming fish and seafood, especially for that omega-3 fatty acid nutrient. We know eating enough omega-3 fatty acids help improve our inflammation, helps lower our triglycerides, our blood pressure, and of course, helps our brain health too. Interestingly, in these recommendations, it's the first time they've ever talked about supplements, and they do not encourage omega-3 supplements. Their statement is that fish oil supplementation alone has not been demonstrated to lower cardiovascular disease risk in otherwise healthy adults. And in some people, this may be associated with an increased risk of AFib. So the next assessment I'll ask is, are you regularly eating seafood and fish? And if not, how can you eat more of it? Another recommendation under this protein guideline is consuming more low-fat dairy products. This is different than the US Food Guide, which is promoting whole milk, whole fat, high fat dairy products. This guideline from the American Heart Association says there's not enough evidence to suggest consuming the whole fat dairy, so continue to eat low fat, no fat dairy to keep your overall saturated fat intake low. And then another surprising recommendation is that they actually talk about consuming red meat in this guideline, which is new. They've never talked about it in the past. What they say is if red meat is desired, make sure that you're choosing the unprocessed type, limit fatty cuts, so you're still limiting the saturated fat, and of course, limit portion sizes. So they don't offer a specific amount of red meat, but they are saying that if you do desire it, make sure that it's lean cut and of course limit the portion size as much as you can. As I said, they are encouraging that you limit or avoid processed red meats, which are things like sausage, deli meat, and bacon. Okay, hopping to recommendation number 5, which is encouraging replacing that saturated fat nutrient with unsaturated fats. So the best example here is replacing butter or beef tallow with extra virgin olive oil. This is not a new recommendation, but it is different from the US food guide. So it is something to consider how much you are eating, or if you did start to eat more butter and beef tallow based on those recommendations, maybe coming back to the unsaturated fats and knowing that it is more beneficial for our heart health. In the guideline, it does say that there's strong evidence that shows that replacing butter with unsaturated fats decrease your LDL cholesterol concentration. So it's very, very clear here in this document. Number 6 is the new recommendation of choosing minimally processed food instead of the ultra processed foods. So this is a newer recommendation. It hasn't been talked about in the past nutrition guidelines. It is consistent with the US food guide, but it is a little bit controversial because we are a busy society and we often don't have enough time to cook whole foods from scratch every night. And that's why we do rely on ultra processed foods. But in these guidelines, they're stating that there is evidence to suggest that individuals who have a high intake of ultra processed foods also have adverse health outcomes like obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and all-cause mortality. In the recommendation, it does suggest maybe this could be related to food insecurity. It could be related to food deserts, not having access to whole foods. So even though this is the recommendation, if you are choosing processed foods that are higher fiber, lower sodium, lower sugar, I think as a registered dietitian, they still can be included because these shortcuts are essential in order for us to eat the nutrients that are recommended in this guide. Recommendation number 7 is all about minimizing added sugar. This is consistent with past guidelines and it hasn't changed. It is recommending the added sugar, so that's sugar that's been added to food during processing, is limited to no more than 10% of our calories, and that is about 6 teaspoons of added sugar if you were to add it yourself to your foods. Now, what is added sugar? It can be white sugar, brown sugar, but it can also be honey and maple syrup. Okay, any type of sugar that's added during processing. If you're interested in learning about reducing added sugars, check out my video on lowering your triglycerides, where limiting sugar is one of the first nutritional recommendations we work with you on as registered dietitians. So this video tells you more about that. Recommendation number 8, this is the second last recommendation, so thanks for sticking with me. It's about lowering your intake of sodium. Again, nothing new. However, when you look further into this recommendation, not only does it suggest reducing sodium, which is consistent with past guidelines, it also talks about the benefits of eating enough potassium. So we know that potassium does the opposite of sodium in our body and thus does the opposite effect on our blood pressure. So we want to eat less sodium, but we want to eat more potassium. And we also know that North Americans are not eating enough potassium. So if you're bored of the recommendation of limit salts, how about you focus on the recommendation of eating more potassium? Where is potassium found in our food system? Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, you name it, those whole foods have potassium. So I think this overarching recommendation of eating more plants in this guideline will help you achieve overall heart health, because we know that eating more plants will increase our fiber. It also increases our potassium intake. It increases our unsaturated fats. It limits our saturated fat intake. If we're choosing whole foods, we don't have to worry about limiting added sugar or added sodium. But if you are looking at ultra processed foods, making sure you're doing that will overall help you stick with these guidelines. You may be saying, Veronica, these guidelines are so boring. And yes, they are, but they work. And sometimes I hear the argument, well, Veronica, why is heart disease still the #1 cause of death in North America? And that's because people aren't following these recommendations. These recommendations are hard to do when we're in this busy lifestyle that we live, but unfortunately they work, and that's why they haven't changed so much. Okay, let's talk about the last guideline. the last recommendation, which is limiting alcohol. So this is also a newer recommendation. The alcohol guidelines are way more cautious than they have been in the 2021 guidelines. There has been some research that has come out in the last 5 years, as well as a great position statement from the American Heart Association talking all about alcohol. But basically, these guidelines say the relationship between alcohol intake and blood pressure appears linear and progressive, even at the lowest intakes. So even at the littlest intakes, it is going to affect your blood pressure. So the general messaging is, if you're not drinking, don't start. If you are drinking, try to consume as little as possible. There has been some conversation in the past about, while the Mediterranean diet is recommended in a heart-healthy diet, or recommended as a heart-healthy diet, however, it also recommends consuming more red wine. And since then, they've looked at the research to say, no, consuming red wine won't be the heart protective part of that dietary pattern. It's more of those whole foods that we've been talking about throughout this whole video. So those are the 9 recommendations of this guide. There was a little bit of talk as well about dietary cholesterol, which again is new from the 2021 guidelines. It's not one of the top 9 recommendations, but they do say that you do not need to worry about dietary cholesterol for most people. Dietary cholesterol, so the cholesterol that we intake, cholesterol found in things like eggs or seafood like shrimp, does not impact our blood cholesterol levels for most people. And so they say in these guidelines that moderate egg consumption can be included as part of a heart-healthy diet. And they do say that replacing red meat with plants, as well as eggs, nuts, legumes, fish, and seafood is going to help reduce our cardiovascular risk. So these are my big takeaways from the new AHA 2026 guidelines. I would love to hear your input on the comments below. What are you going to try? Like I said, pick one thing. It doesn't have to be all of this. Pick one thing, work on it, and then add to it, and you'll be better off than you were yesterday.